There's an urgency to replace these two tanks. Essentially, the city's been on notice for a number of years, probably at least a decade now, that that location, the Stewart Street tanks, are in a failure mode.
Actually, about a decade earlier, a study of the Stewart Street site was conducted, and the report was sent to the city in March of 2000. This is what it said, with some drawings added. It is clear that substantial leakage from the rectangular reservoir is directly influencing groundwater levels in the areas east and downslope of the reservoir. When the water level of the reservoir rose, fell, or stayed constant, the monitor wells responded in kind. It is not clear that significant leakage is coming from the circular reservoir, since no groundwater table increase was measured between December 13th and December 22nd. However, the elevated groundwater table level between December 23rd and 29th cannot be attributed to any typical natural process. In fact, the substantial rise corresponds to the period when the rectangular reservoir was out of service, and the circular reservoir and associated piping were being used much more extensively. These observations suggest some type of intermittent leakage from the piping system, or leakage from the upper levels of the circular reservoir that are not typically in contact with stored water. And for 8 years after this study, references to Stewart Street identified one tank as leaking and needing to be replaced, the rectangular tank. The circular tank was said to be sound, or that it appeared to be in good condition, or that previous inspections had revealed little cracking or distress in the concrete. The 2007 Preliminary Design Review, or PDR, also noted that the exact condition could only be determined by draining and inspecting the circular tank. Here's what was said in August of 2008.
Under any other construction scenario, it has been assumed that the rectangular tank at Stewart would be demolished. We had hoped at one time that the round tank, the existing round tank, may stay in place. Again, the validity of this assumption can only be confirmed after the tank is drained and we've inspected it from the inside.
3 months later, in November, both tanks are said to be leaking, and failure could be imminent. At this special meeting in January 2009 at River Lodge, there was a less urgent assessment.
There have been fairly extensive historic repairs made particularly of the rectangular or the older tank. The reservoirs have experienced historic problems. None of these are unexpected or alarming.
A week later, in preparing for the vote to authorize proceeding with preliminary planning, the phrase, "two existing and failing water tanks," is repeated 4 times on the first page of the staff report. Following a request for records relating to the leaking circular tank, a consultant sent the city these 2 photos. The accompanying email indicated the photos were taken in February of 2009. It concludes, "This is evidence the tank may be leaking." 3 months after these photos were taken, the author of the email wrote a geotechnical investigation report. In it, he notes that they did not conduct a detailed inspection, but that the circular tank appears to be in relatively good condition. I have been told the city has no internal records relating to the condition of the circular tank. No maintenance records, no staff inspection reports. It would be possible to operate a booster pump station at Stewart Street if the circular reservoir were kept in service. Based on our experience, we would discourage the elimination or reduction of any usable storage. It is time to drain it. Open the door and take a look inside. If it is still sound, we should not be planning to demolish it.